There was another story that shows even more corruption. You know, because Mueller also hid the fact that Peter Strzok, the anti-Trump, pro-Hillary FBI senior official who was working on his investigation of Trump and who also had run the Clinton investigation, was he had hid that he had been thrown off his investigation. It came out only 4 months later. The Justice Department and the FBI were trying to cover all of that up. And they still are covering things up, and they've now covered up something, and this is the story that you may have been followed last week, but probably got overcome by the news of the Mueller investigation. I was talking about it on, I think I was talking about it on Hannity last week. I think the discussion of that, I was talking on Hannity with Jim Jordan and Ron DeSantis. So that was a good discussion. You should go back and watch it. But the text messages between Peter Strzok and his paramour, or adulterous lover, Lisa Paige, by all accounts, show potential corruption in the FISA court. Now, we know there's been corruption in terms of the Clinton DNC dossier being improperly used to target Trump and the FISA court being misled, but the text messages were blacked out showing that Peter Strzok knew one of the judges on the FISA court, who also was the judge who recused himself after taking the Flynn plea, Judge Contreras. And here are the text messages. Strzok knows Contreras, and he says, and Paige writes, "I can't imagine either one of you could talk about anything in detail meaningful enough to warrant a recusal." So Paige is encouraging Strzok perhaps to talk just this side of forcing Judge Contreras to recuse himself about FISA issues. Even Strzok responds, "Really? I'm in charge of espionage for the FBI. Any espionage FISA comes before him, what should he do, given his friend oversees them?" And Paige says, "Well, standards for recusal are quite high. I just don't think this poses an actual conflict, and he doesn't know what you do." Generally, he does know what I do, according to Strzok. He's super thoughtful and rigorous about ethics, so I'm not saying the judge did anything necessarily wrong. Someone, and the name is redacted, continued to be redacted by the Justice Department, suggested a social setting with others would probably be better than one-on-one meeting. "I'm sorry, I'm going to have to invite you to that cocktail party. Of course, you'll be there. Have to come up with some other work people cover for action." So this is what's going on here. Strzok is talking to the judge about FISA issues in a way that doesn't require the judge to recuse himself, but he wanted to talk to him about FISA issues and come up with a cover story using other FBI officials as cover to talk to him in a social setting. And as I said, Judge Contreras recused himself from the Flynn investigation, or the Flynn case. It wasn't an investigation, it was a plea deal that was entered before him. Oh, by the way, the Flynn plea deal, further tainted because of McCabe, the lying FBI number 2 who targeted Flynn with that ambush interview. So now we've got the FISA. Now, Judge Contreras is one of only 3 district court judges on the FISA court from the District of Columbia, meaning if there was a local issue that needed a FISA warrant approval here in DC, meaning the big stuff, 1 out of 3 chances, more or less, I don't know exactly what the odds would be, but a good chance he would have been involved. And here you've got Strzok and Paige trying to corner him and use a cocktail party or a social situation as cover to talk to him about court business that they know they're not allowed to do. So it's not just the FBI and DOJ were corrupt, but maybe they corrupted the FISA court. And frankly, the court needs to investigate what went on. Were there any contacts with Paige, Strzok, that were inappropriate in light of these texts. And I don't know if Contreras did anything wrong. He recused himself. It's unusual that he recuses himself from a criminal case like this after the deal was entered before him. What caused him to recuse himself? I think the American people deserve answers. You know, one thing the courts rely on is in terms of gaining confidence or ensuring confidence from the American people is that they're above reproach. That no reasonable person could look at their activities and conclude that justice isn't being fairly administered. Now, I don't know if anyone on the court did anything wrong here, but there's at least enough to begin an inquiry. And if the courts aren't going to do it, Chairman Goodlatte can, Chuck Grassley can. They're the respective heads of the judiciary committees for the House and the Senate. This shows you the crisis that this corrupt Obama, Justice Department, and FBI have placed us in. Not only did the Obama gang ruin the Justice Department and FBI, or depending on your point of view, further ruin them, but it now looks like the splash damage has hit the federal courts. By the way, those text messages that showed the communications about the judge were redacted by this Justice Department and this FBI, and congressional investigators had to go over there and get them and look at them to figure out what was going on. So there was a cover-up of this corruption, evidently, of the courts by this Justice Department and FBI. Who is running the show over there?